Hello everyone, this is your Trivia. Welcome back to the semifinal rounds of Season 3 of our subscriber game tournament, as we have our matchup between Yulia and Trivenicus. So this is going to be a best out of 3 format, where the first 2 games will be pick and bans with alternating maps selected by the players themselves. So as Yulia is the higher seed, the first game will be a map selected by her. So the maps can be anything in game as long as it's an open field map, and you can inform your opponent ahead of time which map you'll be selecting, which side of the map you'll be deploying from, and of course which weather conditions you want to use. So this is a little twist we're throwing in here in the tournament, as each player will get to select one map for this round. And starting things off, we're going to look at that pick and ban phase. Now looking at the first bans, we have Yulia kicking things off with Zhang Jiao, followed by Yan Baihu, Huang Fusong, Mu Lu, Lü Bu, and Yuan Shao. And the bans are pretty clear, targeting each player's strength, as we now have plenty of match history between the players. Actually, Trivenicus and Yulia matched up in previous season as well, so they probably have played each other the most between anyone in the tournament, as they also were in the same group for this tournament as well. And Yulia starting things off by banning out Zhang Jiao to stop the Messenger of Heaven. Definitely an excellent cavalry unit, very cheap as well. Yan Baihu banned just to prevent any shenanigans. There's also a lot of force on this particular map, which we'll take a look at before we kick off our deployment phase. And then Huang Fusong's banned for those pesky Defender of Empire, good health arrow general. Mu Lu is banned because Yulia used Mu Lu in pretty much all her open field battles, as well as her defensive siege as well, and the elephants are pesky as ever. Then finally, Lü Bu is just a strong ban, as is Yuan Shao, as you can grant distant courage, which is his main value. And that leads to our first picks. We have Xu Huang being picked by Yulia, just a strong all-around general, going kind of away from her standard comp of picking Liu Chong, Zhang Liang, and Mu Lu, as Mu Lu is banned. And the answer here for Trivenicus is actually Liu Chong. So this is very smart. It's not only a good pick, it's also acting as a ban. You're taking this away from your opponent, who's known to use it quite often. And of course, show of force is very good on open field battles, especially on big maps like this, where you can try to kite back. There's also a lot of force on this map, which could complicate things for the show of force, but still offer a lot of room to retreat into, to buy more time for more usage. And then we have another round of bans, started by Trivenicus this time, banning out Wen Chou. So a good roar ability, strong general, and it's answered by Sun Ce, another good roar ability and strong general as well. And that leads to He Man being picked by Trivenicus. So we're getting a Hail of Arrow user, we're getting Yellow Turban units, most likely infantry unit in this case, maybe some Unbreakable Yellow Sky Herald, as that's probably the main reason why Mu Lu is banned, because with elephants around, it's hard to bring a lot of infantry, but with Mu Lu banned, you can actually get away with bringing some infantry and not worry about Yulia's typical strategy against it. And Yulia goes with Zhang Liang. This is the pick that has appeared in pretty much all her matches, as she really liked his unique unit, the Tyrant Slayer, for additional help for her generals. Although, in my opinion, if Mu Lu is not picked, you might not need that help. Just micro your generals well and fight a 3v3, especially since you did get Xu Huang. And those cavalry units are a little bit weak in terms of defensive stats, and also weak against range, so they might fall victim to enemy units much more easily than other units you can pick up. And it's also kind of telegraphed when you pick Zhang Liang what unit you're going to get. That leads us to our last round of bans, as we have Dong Zhuo banned by Yulia, and Yan Yu banned by Trivenicus. Clearly, Trivenicus has done his homework. Yan Yu is a pick that Yulia likes to pick at the last spot. It's a pick she used quite a lot in Season 2. She likes the mending capability, the champion, the unit access to the White Tiger units, especially on this forest map. You can basically get poison units with snipe, shooting out of forest with the Stalker passive. It's very interesting ban here, very alert head-up play. And that leads to our last round of picks. Yulia is going to go with Pei Yuan Shao, so looking for a Wisdom of the River user that is not a strategist, so that you have combat capable generals while having that very powerful strategist ability. And on Trivenicus' side, we actually have Gao Shun, so we're getting the slam ability, Scattering Blow plus Flame of the Phoenix for a bigger slam, even though it's been nerfed down a bit, so the range isn't as crazy. It's also an interesting pick. He has good stats in terms of armor, but aside from that, not really powerful, and the unit choices are a little bit limiting, but since Trivenicus doesn't have a good cavalry general, having a vanguard here does help. So let's take a look at what units they got on these generals before we hop into deployment. And looking at the units picked for these compositions, starting with Yulia in the green, we can also take a peek at the map in the middle and sort of see where the deployment zones will be. We have Yulia picking up 3 Pearl Dragons on Xu Huang. That's a very expensive choice, one that I was not expecting. They are premium infantry and holding down areas with high evasion. They can do okay against cavalry, but they're not really designed for that, so it's an interesting pickup here. 2 Northern Cavalry, 6 units of Tyrant Slayers, no surprise there. We got some very cheap Peasant Spearmen with 1 Horseback Huntsman for a little bit of fire arrow damage. There are some forest patches in this map, so obviously good for that. And the money's been spent to upgrading the Peasant Spearman, which is a really cheap unit. I feel like the reason here to pick up Pei Yuanshao is for his abilities, but Yulia didn't feel like she had any good units to recruit on him, which is why the money went to rank 4 Peasant Spearmen. There's a decent amount of armor piercing damage. They are efficient for their cost. You are increasing their morale a little bit with these level ups, and I can see why bans on Sun Ce was warranted here, as the roar have been very effective against these units overall. But still, very interesting unit comp. Lots of infantry, lots of cavalry. The infantry quality is kind of on the extremes with some really cheap units and some really premium ones. And it's going to really come down to how well those Tyrant Slayers do, because that's basically the bulk of this army. Then looking at Trivenicus' side, we have a pretty interesting comp as well. Seadown Cav all around for Gao Shun to support the generals. We have 5 units of the Unbreakable Yellow Sky Herald, supported by 1 Chanter, and 2 Premium Protector Heaven to kind of protect the army from enemy cavalry units, which might be a bit of a problem, as there are only 2 of these. And there's a lot of cavalries on Yulia's side, but if the cavalry versus cavalry Michael could go well, and the Yellow Sky Herald being unbreakable can withstand a heavy hit and then hit back, things could be okay. But the main thing about Trivenicus' comp is going to be about the range poke. We saw Trivenicus on defensive sieges using those poke damage really well, and perhaps he can replicate that with the Hail of Arrow combined with Show of Force to stop Yulia's army here on the map picked by Yulia. Now a bit about this map before we take an actual look at it. I believe this is the in-game map for Huarongdao, the historical battle, or actually the romance-based battle where Cao Cao makes his escape after the Battle of Chibi. So we're going to have some pretty long corridors on the north part of the map, some highland on the south, and heavily forested for potential ambushes. I think it's picked for this rather historical or romantic reason, and not really picked for any sort of distinct geographic advantages by Yulia. So let's just enjoy the map and take a look at the actual deployment. And as we hover over this battlefield, let's first take a look at the map selected by Yulia. It's the map of Huarongdao, as I mentioned. It's the historical battle setting for Cao Cao's escape and Guan Yu being stationed here along the path. I'm guessing this will be the path of the escape. We have forests that can hide ambush troops, and there's another path here. Then we have this river, or a shallow river, that splits the map with a beautiful farm on this side. Very detailed. Terrace farm going up the hill. We have watermills, terrace farms, and this is a waterfall that will start running once we unpause. There's a beautiful bridge up ahead. We got mountains surrounding the area as well. It's just a beautiful map. In terms of strategic advantages, I don't really think there is one, at least not really favoring any one side of the map. There are enough trees that you can advance against someone like Liu Chong and He Man without running into issues, but essentially, if you look at these areas that Trivenicus is deciding to defend, he's fighting this sort of like his corridor defense around his siege defense, where he has 2 range generals kind of shooting down abilities as enemy advances, but with these forests around and this high ground on his right, that's probably where Yulia will be trying to move her units to before collapsing on this infantry formation. The Chanter unit is probably the only thing vulnerable here, so leaving them like this is fine. The cavalry is here to support the general so they can use their abilities. Now the elevation of the terrain means Liu Chong probably have to shoot from over here. If he goes down, he's going to have a hard time shooting his ability up above the hill. That's probably the only thing. But aside from that, let's see how this one's actually played out. Yeah, you got the waterfall going. The units will be going up. Nothing too crazy happening for a little bit, but definitely a very beautiful map. And all this terrace farm in the back is deployable as well. Alright, we have Yulia just sticking around the forest for a little bit, but she will have to advance as she's going to be under fire from show force repeatedly. And somehow she has to close this gap. So the cost of picking up Xu Huang is giving away Liu Chong. It's going to make this battle a little bit awkward. Now, Liu Chong should be happy picking up, against any units. Although that line of sight, yeah, he lost line of sight. He did get a shot in here. And even though he didn't get many kills, the morale hit is kind of making this unit waver already. Those peasant spearmen. Interesting choice. I am not sure if Yulia is going to find value there. But we'll see how those are used. Morale's a little bit low. So anything that can shake them like a charge or a damage like show of force. The only thing fortunate is that Gao Shun doesn't have a roar, since he has the scattering blow in place of the roar of the beast. That would be very effective against those units as well, as that's also a 15-point hit. Now Yulia is sneaking a few units off to the right, getting into the forest early. I think heads up, Tyrant Slayers will probably lose to Seadown Cavs. Depends on who gets whose charge. They're a very similar unit, but the damage composition, Seadown Cav has more armor piercing. Whereas Tyrant Slayer is more base damage. If they do get to fight an enemy general, this will be 4 times, then they will have the advantage. All comes down to who gets more charges on more targets. The micro of the cavalry, when you have a crowd of cavalry fighting like this. But a few shots here just to harass, trying to come out with the shot. But once you back into this corridor, everything's kind of downhill and you actually don't have shots on them, as you can see. So they're going to have to be forced back a little. Yulia's trying to take this hill position with the cavalry. Although it's a little bit disjointed between the cavalry and the infantry. Infantry's lagging too far behind. Most of them are spear units, but they're very vulnerable spear units. The generals could go do a number on them. And this group is much more resilient to a hit. So if they trade, as in they go after the infantry here and they respond by going after the infantry here, I think Trivenicus is going to do better. He's splitting his force. Oh. He's going to actually go for it and then keep a group here. So you see another shot going out. Surprise attack, going invisible. Pulling the infantry back. It's too late to kind of pull them back. Yulia's recommitted back to protecting the line. That's probably not wise in my opinion. Oh, is it a bait? Oh, they're going for... Okay, we got a good splash of damage here. But it's left him kind of behind the lines. They should go for... Ooh, this is bad microing, charging everything at 1 unit. Not a great spread here. They're going to make contact. They're going to go after this one in particular. Nope. Yeah, that's the only unit that gets charged. Trivenicus comes back. Bunch of abilities being dumped on top of each other. Going after the general so they can't shoot. Probably going to give the boost back to his units. This is just an inefficient charge. That unit took a lot of damage. But here comes the response. Let's see how good these charges are. Alright, we got 1 into 1. Xu Huang doing a slam, doing a roar. Gao Shun can't end up doing some slam and roar as well. Scattering blow. Does he get to pull off Flame of Phoenix? He does. Big slam, but he's already kind of low. The roar, minus 15. And the damage he took. He's so close to the edge of the map, he might not come back from this. But he did a good slam, so he killed a few cavalry there. Oh, is he going to bounce? Okay, we got a couple shots coming back. It got cancelled. Oh, that's a shame. Goshen's gone. This is a problem of fighting near the edge of the map. Anything with low morale doesn't get a chance to bounce back. It did do a number on these cavalry, so that evened out the fight, and I think Trivenicus charged the cavalry a bit better. The infantry give up their advance? Why? So the Tyrant Slayer actually lost that engagement. Part of the reason is all 6 clumped up on the one target in the beginning. They got side charged, and most of all, Goshen got his ability off. At a heavy cost, he was routed. These units have plenty of space to regroup. They will probably come back. Alright, now it's about how to approach this group of infantry. They need to do it fast, because they can't just sit here and let them get poked. They should stop chasing and just engage before their cooldowns come back. They have a good decent angle. Whatever cavalry bounces back, go to the hill. Infantry charge first, let them engage, then the cavalry come down afterwards. Yeah, I got one unit bouncing back, but that's it. We got 1, 2, 3. 3 of those came back. The Pearl Dragon should just charge down. Take the charge. It's a better initiative. Basically free damage. Yeah, Liuchong's gonna get time to poke. This is not great. They should just engage. Trying to protect the most expensive unit here with a little bit of smokescreen, but I think he's probably gonna shoot this. This is just annoying. Yep. And that's a lot of damage, and also a lot of morale hits. They're gonna bounce back as well, but they're gonna rout for a little bit. The cavalry's being sent at Liuchong. They should just hover over here, let the infantry engage, and then open things up with the charge from the hills. The infantry need to push in faster. Alright, they're going to the forest, which is really smart. Yeah, they lost their initiative. They should have charged out much earlier. The cavalry can't be the one holding the front. They have to hold the engage, and they come in with a rear charge. But they're taking the initiative now, so that's good. Yeah, backing those units up. Engage these. Charge. They need charge command. They can't just be walking. What's the point of walking? The problem with fighting here now is that these peasant spear infantry, yeah, they're not giving any charge command. What are they doing? They're getting charged now. They're gonna rout and they're just gonna run away. They're not gonna get any value there. They kept the 2 Protector of Heaven in the forest now. They are charging into the Protector of Heavens. Definitely a great play. So, aside from the fact Trivenicus is down 1 general, the infantry layout heavily favors him, and they trap the cavalry here with the spear. Liuchong's getting chunked. That's the problem with, I mean, it's Wisdom River combination, getting hit, targeted. Xuhuan's not even being sent. Gonna look for Hail of Arrows. Probably not gonna have a great angle, and they're gonna do fine without that. This was a good trap. The problem is they can't save Liuchong. Trying to get a shot on this. 82% armor. It's not gonna do too much. Yeah, Xuhuan's gonna stick on Liuchong here. And Trivenicus gonna get the block. He's using this terrain much better. Yulia had a chance to just engage that front when they're here and then slip the cavalry through because they have to commit. But they got the initiative. They knew if they stood still, it was not going to look good. So they actually took control of this area. Now these cavalry are kind of just useless here. The problem is the generals. They're not going to find another great angle here. The Pearl Dragon's going to hold. It's going to be a slow grind to kill these, but they can eventually do it. The Roar's not going to have much value. Yeah, they're going to pull 1 unit back and keep 1 over here to see if they can just engage the enemy cavalry. Yeah, the Pearls are losing. Wow. It's the flanking angles. The morale hits are based on those flanks. They got a very poor engage because they were charged up like this and they got charged into. They weren't charging anything, so it was Very bad micro mistake. But Liu Chong's about to be gone, getting chased down repeatedly by different generals. He Man is not unbreakable, but his units are, so he would not suffer any army loss. Fighting at the edge with the unbreakable unit definitely helps. Gulshun was just a bit unfortunate. Getting a shot out before the end. A lot of friendly fire on that one, but he was gonna die. Now it's just targeting He Man, slowly whittling down the units. I mean, with Xu Huang this healthy, he can probably finish off all the Yellow Sky Heralds by himself. There's still this Pearl Dragon. There's no slam ability. He really should just go chase. Is he dismounted though? Yeah, he is. Trying to do a bit to help the units out. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't see He Man bringing this back. Yes, the units are winning, but they're not going to withstand the damage from the enemy general. He's going to army loss soon, once they kill the last few here. Get a couple slams in. Dismounted versus mount. He can't really dismount because it's 1v3 if he does. So he's just going to be on the run. And he's about to rout, and off the field he goes. A couple units here, and that's about it. Army loss basically swung too hard. And Xu Huang's going to clean up here. So definitely some interesting ideas here with fighting on the edge here with unbreakable units. I think that worked pretty well. Gulshun was a bit unfortunate. He kind of routed here and then just did not recover in time. He did kill off a bunch of enemy cavalry. I think he traded against 3 Tyrant Slayers, basically. And then Trivenicus played the defense around the fours much more decisively than Yulia did. These peasant spearmen. Yeah, they're lucky they routed that way and then came back. If they routed this way, they would have been gone. And a good win by Yulia on her map, which is expected. You're basically holding court, as the next matchup will be a map selected by Trivenicus, and he will get first pick in bans. Definitely a very bloody affair. Every time we get unbreakable unit, it is. And well played by both players. I think there was some really good stuff going on with the unit choices, as well as the way the units were being maneuvered on the map. And even though Trivenicus lost, I think shows a lot of good signs. And taking a look at the casualty numbers, Xu Huang carrying the day against these unbreakable units. That slam ability, very powerful. I think the unit choices of the Pearl Dragons and the combination with the Peasant Spearmen, not a huge fan of that. I don't think that's a great sort of extremes unit choice. Pearl Dragon, although expensive, they're not that great. Their defenses that are really thin. It's all on evasion, so if they get charged, they're not really going to hold much because charge damage go through evasions, which is why they took such heavy casualties. They got charged by those Yellow Sky Heralds, which took very decisive action. And they're not exactly counter cavalry because they're still considered a purple unit. Their glaives does have a little bit extra bonus damage against cavalry, but that's about it. So perhaps Qingzhou units on Xu Huang is still the better choice, and then you can supplement that with some more premium Yellow Turban units. Even though they're smaller unit size, some of those choices are actually quite good. So that's basically the issue there with the comps. I think for Trivenicus' side, he picked excellent units, Sealand Calves, good value, also helps the general even things out. You know the enemy is going to be coming with Tyrant Slayers. You got premium infantry, you got unbreakable infantry, you got a boost with the chanter on top of that. And they were microed really well as well. The only thing that was a bit of a shame was Gulshun not coming back, but that was hard to predict. And also because Yulia kind of dumped the damage on him as he came in, knowing that he's going to do the slam combo. And there just wasn't enough room on this open field for Liu Chong and He Man to kind of outlast the enemy damage with his range ability, especially since running up against Pei Yuanshao with such heavy armor, it was just going to be difficult. So a good match 1 in the books. We'll be coming back for match 2 and potentially match 3. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you guys then. Bye!